love that time period and how much fun we just had being silly and creative.
There you are.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Y'all had glasses on. I remember the
Oh my
glasses.
goodness. I always think
That
of
was fun.
Tyler and our first company photo shoot with him, and we had to tell him to take his socks off, right? Because his pants were too short.
That was the day of the white socks. Oh, the band picture.
This might have been the day I learned to walk also. What am I don't even know what I'm doing in the back there. I learned a lot at Wilt PR. How to wear socks, how to walk.
That has that 2010s band vibe for sure.
A web management specialist, a preacher, and a Parks and Recreation employee all walk into a bar. The punchline? Well, it's not really a joke, but there's plenty of fun to be had when they all get together. We're reuniting with 3 of our past employees today to learn what they're up to now, how their time at Shiftology impacted their career, and to reminisce a little bit about the old days of agency life. That's all ahead on today's episode of Shooting the Shift. Hello and welcome to Shooting the Shift, a venture here at Shiftology Communication where our team of communication professionals take time to reflect, share, and provide insights into what we do every day to help our clients reach more, convince more, and win more. I'm Dan Toland, Director of Virtual Experiences here at Shiftology Communication, and we're happy you've tuned into today's episode entitled, Where Are They Now? Well, today we have some special guests that need no introduction to us as they're all former employees of Shiftology, or rather should I say the firm formerly known as Wilt Public Relations as it was called back in their day. We're joined today by Sara McKinniss, Brad Boyer, and Tyler Hall. You may be some familiar faces to some of us. We're also joined by the boss, CEO Melanie Wilt, and our creative director, Marin Smith, here at the last minute as well. So thank you both for joining in today. So let's take a moment to go back in time and learn about our guests here today. So can you each take a moment to let us know how you ended up with Wilt Public Relations, now Shiftology, and what role you played?
Hi, I'm Sara. I was Melanie's first legal hire. I actually came to work for Melanie when I was a student at Wittenberg University. I was studying communication at the time, and Melanie needed a communication intern to help out with the launch of the new Next Edge Park out on Route 40 in Springfield, as well as just doing some other supportive communication efforts for the organization. And then eventually graduating into the wonderful economy of 2009, the big old Great Recession. There wasn't a lot of opportunities, and Melanie was looking for a freelance hire. So I came on to work for Melanie the summer of 2009 and eventually worked full time in the fall. And we were in the Commerce Point building and originally started working out of her house out in South Charleston, ended up there in Springfield, where I was there for just over a year and a half and just got my feet in the ground running. And so that's how I met Melanie and how I got my start at Wilt PR. Kind of build it from the ground up. It was definitely a startup environment for sure. Doing everything from writing press releases to handbooks to bringing on and mentoring interns and everything. So definitely was part of the foundation of building that and supporting her in that launch.
Tyler?
I also met Melanie during my time at Wittenberg. I was an upperclassman junior year, and I was looking for an internship. And Wilt Public Relations caught my eye. I was very interested in doing PR, and this was a local place where I was going to school, so I was very drawn to it right away. It seemed like it lined up perfectly. So, I wanted to make an impression. So I didn't just do a resume. I filled it out. I put it in this envelope. I got dressed up, and I came in to hand deliver it. And I think I ended up handing it to the person who already had the internship actually at that point. So I ended up dropping a 401 marketing class, but being able to come on for the social media practice and expertise, working with clients, doing some copywriting was invaluable. And over that year of my senior year working, I remember we were at one client, and Melanie and I were there giving a presentation. And as we were driving back to the office, she said, "So how would you feel about coming on part-time for the second half of your senior year?" And I said, yeah, that would be great. It was awesome to just be able to jump right in, have the familiarity, and really put my skills in full swing. And then, of course, by the time I graduated, Melanie offered me a full-time job.
Brad, I had you muted there for a moment. We're getting the background noise from you.
I'm not surprised by that. So I'll continue to cause problems the whole time. So
Tell us when you started causing problems. Let's do that.
it officially started around 2010 when I moved back from Washington, D.C. I wasn't sure really where the next step of my career would be. Maybe politics was going to be the focus of what I would do. And I picked up a few clients of my own and took a stab of running kind of my own consulting business. And that went on for about a year. And when Melanie had a position open after Sara left, her and I started having the conversation. And that's when my family started to grow. And we were looking at having a little bit more stability. And it seemed like a good opportunity to consider not only expanding my knowledge and understanding of outside of the political scope of things and the public relations side of stuff. And that's when Melanie took a risk and invited me on the team. And I was there for about a year and a half. Seemed like way longer for everybody else, I'm
forever.
sure.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to these days?
I'm a web management specialist or senior digital content specialist, whatever title you want to refer to me as. At the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. I've always gravitated towards healthcare. And while I was at Wilt, I supported a variety of healthcare accounts. And so that love of healthcare has always kind of been there. So right now, I primarily support the James Comprehensive Cancer Center. I'm doing a lot of work on the website, everything from, trying to translate really highly complex disease state information or condition information to the patient or to the consumer, while also running, plays for our clinical team, making sure that our physicians or advanced practice providers are reviewing content, making sure, that it's accurate, it's scientifically accurate, but also speaks in a way that resonates with the patient. And that I just started in the grad program through the Ohio State University College of Nursing, where I'm pursuing my master's in healthcare innovation. So that's where I'm at.
Wow, a lot different than writing news releases. So.
But it's good experience because you need it.
Tyler?
I think it was about 2013 that I transitioned from Wilt and I went out to work for the city of Dayton. And it really was due to the kind of work that I was doing at Wilt. So I really got an interest and a passion for doing public-focused campaigns and writing and doing things that I felt made a difference in the community where I was. And so I found this opportunity to be a social media specialist out at the city of Dayton. And what drew me to it there was this was the first time anybody had filled that role. This was a new position that the local government was finally realizing we should probably have somebody to manage these things. I won't go into all of the different things that happened while I was there, but it was never a dull moment. I will say that. So I was across lots of different platforms, planning different strategies, meeting with both commissioners and the mayor on a regular basis, as well as working with different departments to educate the public, doing a lot of customer service, actually. Lots of people want to reach out on Facebook Messenger to a government city Facebook page and ask. I remember the very first question I had to answer when I started was, when is Beggars Night? When is that is like when this time of year rolls around, everybody wants to know, when is trick-or-treating happening? and just in case anybody is watching and wants to know, it's always October 31st in the city of Dayton. Rain or shine, whatever day it is October 31st. They're traditionalists and purists that way. And then around 2017, I had an opportunity come up where I was approached by the elders at the congregation where I was worshiping. And they said, we think you could do preaching full time. And in the background of all of this, between my time at Wilt and my time at the city, I'd been doing preaching appointments, getting up in the pulpit on Sundays and teaching some classes during the week at local congregations where I had been attending. And people were encouraging me to continue in that effort and to doing that. So with my personal time, I was doing my own studies and research and striving to improve my public speaking. And by the time 2017 rolled around, in February of that year, I had one of the elders reach out and said, we want to formally offer you a position. So that was a big change, going from a government pension-funded job to I'm going to work with this local group. I'm technically self-employed is how the arrangement works. And so it was a big shift. Again, going from the small business PR to mid-sized city government and now going into ministering and preaching full time. And I have loved every minute of it.
Melanie, Moran, did you ever imagine when Tyler was with you that, 10 years down the road, we'd be talking to a preacher?
I think to some degree, yes. He was always able to talk about his faith, but do it in a very conversational way where it wasn't in your face, or you didn't feel like you were being preached to. It was just this really genuine, humble person of faith, and so I guess it doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure that he entertains his congregation.
For one reason or another, maybe I entertain. I'm not sure. Depends on the day, I guess.
It was always very natural to Tyler, and it was always a part of who he was. It was never missing. So whether it was professionally or personally, that was a part of him always. So for me, after working with a lot of clients at Wilton Shiftology, there was the ability to kind of transition between different industry, which was very eye opening and also helpful with me personally. I was able to be in the current position I am through the Clark County Park District as them as clients, and just building these relationships, and never even thinking that Parks and Rec would be a natural destination for my career. But that was always kind of missing from what I had been doing before, which is that public servant and giving back piece, which is the part that I love most about my job currently, which is the ability to help and give back, which sounds cheesy, but it's honest, and the ability to see the impact that I'm making, and not necessarily in a product way, but in a tangible way. And I've been here now for a little bit over 11 years, but there was a lot of work that needed to be done here, and we still have a lot of work to do. But whether it's helping with strategic oversight, which is kind of one of my responsibilities, and to marketing and all that kind of stuff, we're a small team, and we all kind of chip in everything from programming to actual strategic planning to marketing, to whatever needs to be done. I can get my hands on it, which is nice. So,
and I gotta ask, many of us are huge Parks and Rec television show fans. So every time somebody says Parks and Recreation, I immediately think of that show. So what parallels are you drawing to that in your career? Are you the Ron Swanson? Are you the Leslie Knope? Hopefully you're not Jerry Gergich. Do you know which character you represent there?
I look like Jerry. But I would have to say that I'm probably more of a Leslie Knope, an overachiever type personality. But it is we always joke that the reality of our day-to-day life is funnier than what the show actually was able to portray, because it's the things that people come in. And I think if Tyler could probably, and Melanie could probably also share that too, but local government it's one of the best things you could ever be involved with in your life, but it's also some of the funniest situations that you could probably encounter too in your life. So
thanks for sharing all that. I kind of want to turn it over to Melanie and Moran. You guys both know all three of these individuals way more than I do. I came along after their time here, I think, right at the tail end of Tyler. So feel free.
I think we're kind of known as an agricultural firm. None of you had agricultural backgrounds when you came to work with us, and have not gone on, I guess Brad's, natural resources, maybe a little bit closer. But when you came to work with me, what was interesting to you about the job description?
I was kind of getting that foundational skill set where, I was learning how to write, I was learning how to speak, I was learning to do a variety of communication oriented things. And what I think was interesting about the ag aspect, to me anyway, was just like the science, right? Like I've always enjoyed science. I think a lot of people resonate with science. I didn't even know that like agricultural communication was a thing. One of the things that I think I appreciated about it was being able to communicate, take highly complex information and breaking that down into tangible, understandable things. I mean, that's almost like a translation, right? And that's a skill set that not everyone has. And being able to talk about the why, like why is this important? And I do that in my job today. As a matter of fact, every job that I've ever had, like that role had never been previously created. So I like even my current job at Ohio State today, our team is brand new. No one has been in this role prior. So I think there is a certain amount of like ingenuity. I think there's a certain amount of willingness to an initiative that you had to have when working for you, because nobody had figured this before. Like, it didn't come with a blueprint. Yeah, there was a job description, but there wasn't a blueprint on how to do this work. And so I think that's what I took away from just having that initial experience with you, was understanding that things aren't always going to, there's not always going to be a plan. There's not always going to be a cut and paste method of how to do something. And you do have to have that sort of, lens to put on and say, hey, how am I going to figure this out? Because no one's going to tell me.
My client prior to joining you was the Ohio Farm Bureau, because we were running the campaign against the Humane Society when they were trying to put through that constitutional amendment. And I think that was part of the conversation that you and I were both having, whether the ability to expand and having a broader set of clients, whether that was in, biotech and other things, of where all this stuff somehow overlaps, like Parks and Rec, like it does, like the natural resources to agriculture. Those communities connect in ways that maybe initially we weren't thinking, or that as well in Shiftology weren't necessarily thinking about those as potential clients. And how do we appeal to them, or how do we look and expand the agency, connecting to other people that are in the industry but not traditionally in those in the agriculture industry?
Very true. I mean, it's all science-based. It's kind of that science of creating meaning that we work on. And I think how our name changed to Shiftology makes a lot of sense, because it is all science. It's all interrelated. So those campaigns that we do, Brad, you brought a lot of that to us with the process of how do you start a campaign? How do you look to get to 51% of the vote and really convince people? And that has been, we've continued to do that. We've even written a book about it, which is kind of cool. And I think we gave you a mention in that book, Brad, because you helped really steep us in that knowledge. And it applies to everything that we do. STEM education crosses over to healthcare and agriculture and natural resources. So we do education work, and we're working on an education levy right now. So that experience really helped our whole team. And they're fun things to do because you get to see the outcome. And when you win, you get to celebrate. And a lot of the things we do in PR, we don't actually get to see the end outcome quite so clearly as, oh, hey, you won this by 51% or more, and you can celebrate with your clients as well. Tyler, what about you? You kind of talked, I guess, already a little bit about what appealed to you, but what were some observations you had from those days?
Yeah, I was learning about public relations in school at the time. I was taking a class on media literacy. So I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of know what that is. I'm learning a bit more. And then we had a chapter on public relations. I'm like, what is that? As I was learning that in real time, I was thinking, well, this seems like something that I would be interested in. It's not just straight up selling somebody something like marketing is, but it's really about sharing ideas and telling a story. And I think I've always gravitated toward that concept of storytelling. I think, and this is just me, it's innate in our human nature to want to draw in and lean closer when we hear stories, and it's part of our nature to want to tell stories. And so the idea that being able to tell the story of a client, and so that's what really drew me in. I was, my grandfather called me a city boy early on, so the agriculture piece wasn't necessarily like on the top of my mind. One of the first things I did there, I think, was Springfield in full bloom. And again, just that community asset of what are the natural resources we have? What are the community-driven factors that are making this such a special place to live? And then obviously getting exposed to the clients that we did work with and that I got a chance to work with certainly expanded my understanding of some of those things, but it also just reemphasized that every single person and every single business, every single organization has the story to tell. Some might be more naturally inclined to tell it, and some aren't, and that's okay. That's where the experts come in and are able to frame that idea and deliver it in ways that are easy to digest, easy to process, and easy to resonate with. It's, again, all about telling the story. And I think looking at it that way always made even those challenging parts of any job that I've had relevant and put it in perspective to the bigger narrative, if you will.
Let's go back in time and talk about some memories.
Brad, do you still spill coffee on the floor of the office?
Yes, but the good news is there's carpet here, so it just disappears pretty well. So the best thing about the work environment was how connected everybody was and how it was a family. There was never a day that I dreaded coming to work. Even when it was difficult, it was an enjoyable place to be. And we all got along, even when we had our bad days with each other, we had the ability to, joke and give each other a hard time and tell each other how we felt. And we could all still get along and work well with each other afterwards. So I hope that dynamic is still there. I assume it is. It's probably because I blacked out, but I don't have a lot of, any specific memories. I'm sure probably that's a good thing. It's definitely a time that I am very appreciative of.
Brad, did I hear you say that you don't have any specific memories? Because I've got a lot.
I'm sure you probably do.
Go ahead, Maria.
No, I would just love to say, Sarah, I apologize. We did not work together. I think that we just barely missed each other, but I can tell you that we still reference Sarah McKinniss all the time.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
In a good way.
All good. All good. Never a bad word. And I'm sorry that I never got to work with you. All of my early memories of Wilt PR are just completely infused with the two of you. And what I still miss every day, and Melanie can attest to this because I still talk about it. I always say, I miss Brad and Tyler. What I miss about the two of you is the energy that you brought every day. I could be so overwhelmed, stressed out, just terrible. And one of the two of you would come over and just make me get up off my ass and go play some sort of stupid game, or Brad would be throwing paper clips at me. It was always there. And you brought it for the clients too, because every time there was always, what can we do for the client? What can we do that they didn't ask for? There was always an excitement and a passion, no matter what. Brad, a client that you didn't mention, which I would have assumed would have been your favorite, would be Lee's.
Livers and gizzards. Do they still run that special? I had posted about liver and gizzards so many times, and people eat it, apparently. I have never tried Lee's liver and gizzards. How is it, Dan? Is it good? Is it worth the buzz? Posting once a week?
Not liver, but gizzards are fantastic. I'm a big gizzard fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't knock the giblets. They're all right.
I'm not going to knock it until I try it. I just haven't brought myself to try it yet. So
I will say that the brainstorming sessions were always a lot of fun. And I think that the way we all worked together and the creativity and the bouncing back and forth was able to generate a lot of good ideas for the clients and was beneficial. And that open atmosphere to be able to be creative and just not hold back, really produce a product, I think that benefited the clients.
I miss that physical connectedness that we had in that environment when we were at the Tuttle building. And it's hard to replicate that in a hybrid work environment like this. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
It seems like an odd choice of memory, but when Melanie, or when I should say Wilt PR first started, was this whole advent of social media, right? The iPad hadn't even been invented yet. The iPhone 3G wasn't even out. The flip cam was the foray into video-based communication. There were these these different channels in their early infancy that we hadn't really explored yet, and just were coming up on the precipice of everything. I think just being a part of that whole technology revolution and understanding how it was going to impact communication and our relationships with clients, because a lot of clients wanted to adopt those technologies and employ them as part of their communication strategy. To that aspect, I think it was good to kind of have that early on in my career, to understand that while the technology might change and while the way we communicate might change, the underlying or the core way that we talk, whether it's through messaging or whether it's through, the written word or the visual, those things, those principles are still the same. Not every organization, is an adopter of, new communication tools. And so I think that having sort of that innovative mindset of, let's try it here, take the credit card and go buy a $200 flip cam and, put together a video and post it to YouTube. There's not a lot of people that would be willing to, trial that. And so I think that speaks a lot to Melanie's kind of vision about how communication was going to change.
Both Melanie and Brad were just obsessed with their Blackberries. I didn't have a Blackberry, but you guys loved them.
Well, we had both worked in government previously. And so, government was the last place to let go of the Blackberries.
But it was also the first place that had the technology, so we were ahead of the game. But we also were the last ones to get rid of pagers, too.
It reminds me, for the longest time, I had a fax number on my business card. After 3 or 4 years of never touching a fax machine, I'm like, why is this thing still on my card? I could do all the social media stuff. I could tweet. I could do real time this and that. I'm like, I don't know how to send a fax. I don't even know what that is. So let's get that off of there.
Yeah, we dropped the fax machine a long time ago.
We still have one.
You're not going to get anything from me.
What makes me smile, I'm seeing Tyler, and I haven't seen him for quite a while in person. I feel like we had the opportunity to be there during so many just major life events for you. From literally your first date and then the proposal, and to just be there every day with you through your love story, through to the wedding. It was really fun to watch. And now to see you with 2 beautiful children and successful, it's fun to look, and it just makes me smile to see you.
Wow. It makes me smile to see you all too. I do recall, I can't remember if this was for my last day or maybe a birthday. I came in at every item on my desk, and I had a lot of tchotchkes on my desk, but every single one of them was wrapped in bright, colorful wrapping paper. And I had to unwrap literally everything in order to do my job that day. It was a gift to come in and work.
My favorite memory with Tyler was Halloween. So Tyler's last name is Hall, Hall. And we used to dress up. We used to do like team Halloween costumes. And one year we all dressed up like Tyler. We all wore a bow tie and button-up shirt and glasses, and it was Halloween. So loved that time period and how much fun we just had being silly and creative.
Something being shared here, Dan.
There you are.
There we are.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You all had glasses on. I remember the
Oh my
glasses.
goodness.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you had that.
I always think of Tyler and our first company photo shoot with him. And we had to tell him to take his socks off, right? Because his pants were too short.
That was the day of the white socks. Oh, the band picture.
This might have been the day I learned to walk also. I don't even know what I'm doing in the back there. I learned a lot at Wilt PR. How to wear socks, how to walk.
Has that 2010s band vibe for sure.
When Sara started with me, she was very buttoned up too, but I learned very quickly that she has an absolutely wicked sense of humor that I'm not sure everybody gets, but I certainly get. And especially since I've become a public servant and elected official, Sara knew that was going to happen for some reason.
When I was working for Melanie, I would always say like Melanie Wilt for Congress, or like Melanie Wilt, just like I would just throw that out there as like a political office for her. Just, I don't know, I'd just randomly say it. And then when we saw, I think we were talking about a really bad ad, just like it was putting down the other person running for office. I just said, Melanie Wilt eats babies, like that. And for some reason, I don't know why it was so funny. I think I had heard it from like a movie or a TV show or something. The entire time, the rest of my employment, I would just intermittently say Melanie Wilt eats babies. And I asked her when I found out that she was running for commissioner, I said, is that going to be your campaign slogan? And she was like, no. And originally I was going to put on her announcement post on Facebook, like, do you still eat babies? But I was like, I have evolved a little bit since I was 20.
This sounds really weird.
I've evolved a little bit since I was 22 years old. One of the other cool aspects that I don't think any of you all got to experience was actually working out of Melanie's house. We had a great bonding experience since our desks were 8 feet from each other, and I got to know CJ and Addie and Buckshot. And just got to experience kind of like the home office life, and just kind of understanding, what that looked like, and how Melanie, had this vision for how she wanted to run her business. But what's really cool is now knowing that Shiftology Communication could operate in a small to medium-sized town, especially having the relationship with Wittenberg. I think it's great that she's made ties to the local higher education community. because there's a great source of local talent to help backfill those roles. Definitely having that early on in those infancy stages was, key to the bigger picture of, what does shiftology look like 10 years from now? And it's definitely been awesome to see it evolve, for sure.
Something that I've always loved about our internships is the interns are never expected to just run errands and get coffee. We are giving you real world work, real things to put in your portfolio. And we learn, I think, just as much from our interns as they do from us. Well, not that we didn't abuse Tyler in the day. Back in the day. That was just for fun, though.
I credit Tyler and maybe Brad for our 3 sets of eyeballs on every thing that goes out the door rule that we still use. We had one client that was really picky and particular that would come back. And I felt like almost to the point that they picked on Tyler a little bit.
Was it the exclamation points?
Those rules, those are things that I didn't know to teach you to have 3 people proofread your work before it went through. And so I would just pick things up. We teach that early on now when we bring people on, and it's critical to how we do business today.
Are there any pieces of advice or habits that you've learned that you've carried with you from your time with Wilt that you still utilize to this day, or just like it's just emblazoned in your brain?
I definitely learned a lot of areas that I needed to improve, and also ways to be innovative and strengthen. We were still a small team, and we had to pick up and do things too to make sure that we could provide for the client, whether that was copywriting which wasn't my strongest thing, and I've only improved and gotten better at writing. Even now I'm doing graphic design stuff. It's nice to learn some standards and, what's expected in the industry to be able to carry on, into the workplace. I think mainly it's about me personally of the areas that I needed to improve and become stronger in, which I'm grateful for.
I don't remember those ever being such big weaknesses or issues that needed to be worked on at the time. But I'm glad that you found the opportunity to grow during that time.
There's always areas for improvement.
That's because Brad, I was always his first person, and then Melanie was his second person. So I edited Brad's copy first, and then they went to Melanie.
Third. Melanie was the third. You really thought what you were reading was my work? It was Tyler.
Yeah, it was a team effort, Brad. Team effort. I would just say to that point, you call them soft skills, right? The things that you don't necessarily learn in a classroom or even like on the job, that you're kind of learning about yourself as you're developing as a professional and developing as a person. But I remember getting to a certain point and working with one client, there was a lot of feedback where not everybody agreed with the thing that was being promoted. And me as an individual, I would internalize things. I would take things very personally. And so something even I carry along today, whether it's been through the city or even as my work as a minister, is to put things in perspective, that not every negative thing is an assessment of me as a person, right? But also to take that as an opportunity to how do we turn this into something that is constructive? How do we build up instead of make this just about tearing down? And look at it as opportunity to grow and to learn and to excel and to push certain ideas forward and to help that be understood a little more clearly or a little more better. Marin, since you asked for it, and this is in all seriousness, I will still look at billboards today and say there are way too many words on that billboard. And Marin would be aghast because I have 3 seconds to look at that thing and I don't know what all those words said. Obviously, being in the world and being on the receiving end of a lot of those things still, it just influences, again, the type of things that I put together in my line of work, how we structure the messages we're putting out to the community. It's all about keeping that idea of how people communicate being so critical, whether it's slapped on a billboard or just sitting down talking like this. And there are some good skills to pick up. And so that was one I still think about you, Marin, when I see bad billboards, because I know you wouldn't make them.
And that makes me just really happy to know that you're thinking of me when you're driving.
I was going to say one of the things I've come away with was I took a lot of the lessons that I learned from Melanie through observation. Like, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but when you saw like how she would edit copy, or when you saw how she would brainstorm, or when you saw her approach to developing a logo, or purposefully thinking about why a website should be built the way that it was, or what key messages people should take away. I think that through observation, I've been able to emulate some of that in my career. As a matter of fact, I have frequently asked myself, what would Melanie Wilt do? It always seemed like she might not have known like all the answers to everything at the time, but she would definitely be able to pause and take a step back and say, okay, this is the situation, or this is like what we're looking at, or this is what the client's asking for, or this is what we could offer. What's the strategy for going about presenting that? And multiple times in my career, I have had quandaries, and we actually talked through it. Melanie helped talk me through that. But I always go back to that, that theme of what would Melanie Wilt do if I find myself in some predicament that I don't know what I should do.
I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to say to the three of you just how incredibly proud I am of the careers that you've created, the work that you've done in our communities, the influence, the positive impact that you have had on the people around you, your families, your educations. I'm incredibly proud of what you have done. And I'm not going to lie, at probably the day that each of you came to me and said, I'm moving on to another position, I probably shed tears those days. But to know that you have gone on and you have grown from that time, and that you took something from your time working with us is just probably, to me, one of my personal greatest accomplishments, to watch you guys excel in your careers. And, I think Sara was the one who taught me that, today's graduates are only going to stay at a job for like 2 years. And I had to get that in my head, and accepting that and realizing that I'm just going to get the most out of you while I can and teach you what I can. And it's all going to pay itself back down the road. And to have had the opportunities to continue to work with you guys and consider you part of my network, I am better for that. And I am honored to have been part of that journey for you guys.
Well, thank you for taking the risk.
Agreed.
If you're going to be a stepping stone, be the best damn stepping stone you can be, Melanie. That's
yeah.
good
You guys have
takeaway,
gone on to do great things, and then poor Dan and Marin, they've been here for 10 years, so I can't get rid of them.
Or maybe they're the smart ones.
I spent half of my career, the first half, working for much larger companies, very, very different situations. And so I know just how good I have it. And the fact that we can bring back 3 people that it's been almost a decade since they've worked with us. And it's like no time has passed. We adore you. We miss you. We talk about all 3 of you still all the time. Sometimes we say, what would Tyler do? What would Sara do? Or what would Brad do? Usually those are the things
I was last. I noticed that.
I miss you, Brad. And I miss Marin and everyone.
This has been such a love fest.
I couldn't resist hopping in. I just couldn't resist.
I'm so glad you did.
Before we wrap, how can people find out more about you and your businesses, your careers that you're currently in?
Again, I'm working right now with the West Mason Church of Christ. So if you go to wmcoc.org, you'll have access to all the sermons. We do a podcast called You Are From God. That's on YouTube as well. It's me and the other preacher, Scott. And we sit down every Monday and we go through the Bible and we talk about certain topics. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well under Tyler Hall.
You can find more about the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center at cancer.osu.edu. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Sara McKinniss. It's 2 N's, 2 I's, and 2 S's, and no H.
You can find information about the Parks and National Trail at ntprd.org. That might be shifting here in a couple months. So if you're watching this down the road, I would search Clark County Parks on Google and see what comes up. But we'll be on Facebook too, so you'll be able to find whatever it's National Trail or the Clark County Park District. And I'm also on LinkedIn at Bradley J. Boyer.
Tyler, I didn't know you were doing podcasts. Maybe we should have had you host this. This is just my 3rd or 4th one.
You did great. I've only done it with 2 people.
I'm going to start listening, Tyler.
Oh boy. Let me know if you hear any exclamation points that I need to edit out.
It's the double exclamation points,
Double, yes. Yeah.
That's the first you learn when you work here. Melanie hates exclamation points.
I think I have severely cut back on my exclamation points at this point in my life.
One exclamation point is sufficient and usually unnecessary.
We just really want to express our gratitude for you guys taking the time to reconnect with us today. Hopefully it's not another 10 years before all of us see each other again, but we wish you the best as you continue down your path. Thank you. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Shooting the Shift. Again, you can learn more about Tyler Hall and check out his podcast at wmcoc.org and find him on LinkedIn at Tyler Hall. You can learn more about Sara McKinniss' work at cancer.osu.edu and connect with her on LinkedIn at Sara McKinniss. And you can learn about Brad Boyer's work at ntprd.org or Google Clark County, Ohio Parks. And you can also find him on LinkedIn at Bradley J. Boyer. And you can always reach out to us here at shift-ology.com. You can contact us on our website for a free 30-minute discovery meeting to learn more about what we can offer. You can suggest topics or provide feedback for our podcast in the future as well. On behalf of the entire gang here at Shiftology Communication, I'm Dan Tolan saying thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us on a future episode of Shooting the Shift.